Welcome to another edition of Hometown Happenings. I'm Supervisor George Hoehmtown. Thanks for joining us. So we've ended the summer. We've had a great summer season. We extended our summer concert season all the way through the end of August, and really excited about all the acts that we had. I want to congratulate our new Superintendent of Parks and Recreation, Matt Veronese, who did a wonderful job in helping to get some vendors and sponsors, which really assisted us with being able to expand our offerings this year. Our lunchtime concert series on Fridays also was very, very popular, and we're actually continuing with a rain date one on September 13th. We're also in the preparations for the 23rd anniversary of September 11th, as that's quickly coming upon us. We have a busy fall ahead. We've got a number of projects that the town of Clarkstown is working on. We're about to move forward with the construction of a new facility over here at Town Hall for our maintenance staff and the police department, which will be constructed during the course of the fall. We're about to complete the first ever solar project on a municipal building in all of Rockland County. We have a 110 kW system that is being completed later this month and will be online by the end of the year on the roof of Town Hall, which will meet about 30%, between 30 and 35% of our electric needs during operations at Town Hall, and the majority of our electric needs when Town Hall is closed during the weekends. So really excited about that, and we're able to get some grant funding to help us with that. In addition to that, we're going out to bid on a number of other projects. The long-awaited West Nyack Revitalization Phase 2, which we're going out to bid and should award by the end of this year, with construction to start in the beginning of 2025, and it'll last about a year. That project will be a full facelift of downtown West Nyack. We've been able to receive over $1 million in federal funding through FEMA, as well as some additional federal funding and state funding to help defray the cost of that project. So we're very excited about moving forward with the long-awaited West Nyack revitalization. In addition to that, we've completed work on all of our basketball courts, as well as our tennis courts and our hockey rink, with a full overhaul. And we're going out to bid on several other projects, as well as working towards a full overhaul of our park over in Zucker with the playground, which will be the largest fully accessible handicap playground in all of Rockland County, and we're very excited about that. It was a vision and a dream of the late Councilman Mark Woods. Our new Councilman, John Valentino, was working closely with us on bringing that vision to a reality, and that will be starting work later in the fall, and that'll be completed by the spring, and we're very excited about that. We've got a great show for you coming up. We have Nick Longo from the Clarkstown Rotary, who will be talking about their fall festival. We have our newest councilman, John Valentino, who's an NYPD retired lieutenant and a funeral home director, and we'll be talking about some of what he's looking to do. And then in our veteran segment, we have Guy Gebbia, and Guy actually is a Vietnam veteran and was actually on the USS Hornet with the recovery efforts for the first astronauts from Apollo 11 when they landed back in the Pacific. As a veteran, Guy's going to talk a little bit about his experiences in Vietnam. All that and more on this episode of Hometown Happenings. Stay tuned. Welcome back. My first guest is Nick Longo from the Rotary Club of Clarkstown. Welcome, Nick.
Thank you, George. Thank you for having me.
So, Nick, I know a lot about Rotary, having been a member for many years. In fact, I was, years ago, was two-time president of the Clarkstown Sunrise Rotary, which is actually now a portion of your club with some mergers. Maybe you could tell our residents a little bit about Rotary?
Sure. Well, Rotary, as you know, is a service organization, one of the largest in the world. They're comprised of district zones and clubs. And our club is the Rotary Club of Clarkstown. They're part of Rockland County, Region 8. Actually, Region 8 and 9 comprises Rockland County. We are a local club. We like to do a lot of local things. However, keeping in mind that Rotary has an international goal and international requirements to help, the greater good.
So Rotary was founded by Paul Harris,
Yes,
correct me if I'm wrong, and well over 100 years ago now.
Yeah, 1905. Yep, 3 members.
Right. And out in the Chicago area, and it's grown now into how many members worldwide?
It was peaked around 1.4. Now we're around over a million, maybe 1.1 million.
Right. And here in Rockland County, we've got a number of Rotary clubs, about 12. I think, if memory serves me, that's down a little bit because we've had some mergers in clubs.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about your club in particular,
Okay.
the Rotary Club of Clarkstown.
Yeah. So the clubs in Rockland, which are Region 8 and Region 9, comprised the height about 15 clubs. It has come down since then. Our club, the Congress Valley Cottage Rotary Club, merged with the Clarkstown Sunrise Club to become the Rotary Club of Clarkstown. So we didn't want to take the identity from either club, so we made a new club. And it's worked out really well. Of course, we've taken a little hit on membership, but we have strong members. We do a lot of good for the community. As you know, you've been a frequent guest of our club.
So just tell us a little bit about some of the projects that Rotary International has done, because I know you wear a lot of hats, a lot
Yes.
like your father, a lot like your father
Yes.
Before you. So you wear an awful lot of hats, and amongst those hats, I know that you were the assistant district governor for a
Yes.
number of years.
Yep.
I actually took over as assistant district governor a couple of years after you were, for a couple of district governors back about 15 years ago.
Yeah.
But so you're well acquainted with some of the international projects, so maybe you could mention a few of them, and then let's focus in on some of the charitable projects that your club does, and then we're going to get to some of the upcoming events.
Sure. Well, Rotary most notably is known for polio. We came extremely close to eradicating polio within a handful of cases. A lot of time and money went into that. We're still on the cusp of doing it, but that's probably what Rotary is most notable for. And then there's also Shelter Box, which brings boxes to areas that are hit with devastation and things like that. Water.
So the shelter boxes, I mean, don't want to let that pass, but I know Larry had been an assistant district governor,
Yes.
and had worked up at RCC, and he was really one that kind of brought that to the fore locally. And so essentially, if there's a disaster anywhere in the world, Rotary has a program where you raise money, and they call it a shelter box, but literally it's like a tent with all the supplies for like a family of 5, right?
Yeah, yep, and it's easily deployable. You can purchase them. They were around $1,000. Our club purchased them, and yes, Larry was a big pusher of that. And it's good because it gets the needed resources to the local location that needs it quickly. So Rotary's done that. Water, clean water is a big thing for Rotary. And of course, locally, we've done a lot of things for veterans. Meals on Wheels. I'm sure you've delivered, Meals on Wheels as both an elected official and as a Rotarian. And for our club, one of the larger things we do is veterans. We do a lot of things for veterans in support of them. The biggest thing we do for veterans is we do a trip every other year, every third year, down to Washington, D.C. We take a bus. We call it the honor bus. We can't afford a flight, but we do the honor bus. We take them down to D.C. We meet with our local congressman down there. We have people from Veterans Affairs, meet with them, ask questions. These veterans are fantastic because you put them in a nice big conference room with the congressperson for your area, all sorts of people from Veterans Affairs, and they're just so honest and ask these guys pointed questions, and they answer the questions. They love having them there. That's probably, and we also tour the war memorials with them. And it's just a great experience. I've done every one that we've done. It's just wonderful to see them as they tour the memorials of a war that they were involved in, or maybe something that a friend was involved in. So we see the World War II memorial, Korea, and of course Vietnam.
So how did you get involved in Rotary?
Funny you should ask that. Like father, like son. My dad, as you know, was very involved in the community. He loved Clarkstown, he loved Rockland County, so he was a Rotarian. So I got my first job out of college. I worked for Union State Bank, and he said, we're going to bring you to West Nyack. It was West Nyack at the time. And I said, sure, I don't know if my job's going to let me or whatever. So I talked to my boss. He said, absolutely, do what you got to do. And that was over 35 years ago, and I never looked back. It's been one of the most rewarding experiences. Of course, it's a father-son thing, right? So you get to do that. But as far as helping the community, I know we do the international stuff, but the local stuff is absolutely fantastic. You see the impact right at home, right to people that need it, which I guess we'll talk a little bit about our
Yep.
festival coming up.
Yep, absolutely. So just the finishing up on that with the local, connection. I'd be remiss if we didn't bring up your dad. I know he passed, just within the last few months, but he had a long history here in the town of Clarkstown. Maybe you could talk just a little bit about your dad.
Sure. Well, my dad brought us up from the Bronx. He literally built our house on 303 near where El Toro Steakhouse is. He built the house and it wasn't quite ready. He had to pay someone to finish up some odds and ends because my mother was pushing him a little bit. We moved up literally from the hospital right up to Rockland because he wanted a better life for his family. And he worked in the Bronx, he worked in Manhattan, he was a construction worker, so he didn't really have a lot of time to do things. But he was at a school board meeting and something piqued his interest, and that's what actually launched him into politics. So he was a staunch conservative. He was chair of the Clarkstown and Clarkstown and Rockland Conservative Party. And he's held several elected offices and appointed offices. He was started out as councilman in the 70s. Then he went to superintendent of highways. He, as we talked about, served as the confidential assistant to your office, not for you, but in your office. And finally as tax assessor, which where he did his longest career. He just absolutely loved Clarkstown, and he always wanted to do good for his community. And he did a lot of other things. He's most noted for his political things, which was a plus or minus, but he also did a lot of philanthropic things. And anyway, so I followed in those footsteps.
Yeah.
And my mother as well. I can't.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Your mom was a wonderful lady as well. Leonore, worked here for many years. Was a confidential assistant to my predecessor, Alex Gromack. So let's talk a little bit about some of your upcoming events. And I'm so struck, by the way, just how family can have an impact. So like I got involved in Rotary because of my grandfather.
Right.
My grandfather was involved in the same club, in the West Nyack Rotary Club, for very many, many years. He was a president, did an awful lot of work. Some of my earliest childhood memories were going to the pancake breakfast, which was always the Sunday before Election Day in West Nyack, and you'd have all the political candidates who come rolling through. And I have such fond memories of that because my grandfather, all of us would be invited to go. All my brothers and sisters, my cousins, and it became like a family thing where we would go down. And I remember years and years later, my grandfather died in '87, but when I was with the Clarkstown Sunrise Rotary, we would do 2 pancake breakfasts a year, and it just it's funny to see how family can have an impact. I mean, I learned about Rotary from my grandfather, so when I was working around here before I was involved as town supervisor, I got involved. I was involved with Rotary for about 20 years. Kind of on a hiatus because of time doesn't permit with my supervisor position, but have fond memories of it. But it's funny how family can really propel you with that. But one of the other things that is so good about Rotary is the impact with the fundraising and the events that they do. And your Rotary Club has been doing this fall festival. Started out as the Italian Festival. It's under a number of different names, but this is coming up September 29th?
Yes.
So tell me a little bit about the Fall Festival.
Sure. Well, I'll give you a little bit of history. This is our 18th year. We used to meet at the station kitchen across from the park, and one of our members, Herb Misery, looked across and said, that would be a great venue for a festival. And like you said, it started out as the Italian Festival, and it morphed into a spring and fall festival. We do 2 a year. So the spring festival, we offer birdhouse painting for children. In the fall, we do pumpkin painting, but we do 2 of them a year, and it funds the majority of our philanthropic efforts. It's Sunday, like you said, Sunday, September 29th. It's run from 11 to 5. We have, I just got an updated list. We have a whole host of vendors, a bunch of new food vendors. We're having a car show this time. We had a car show. It went away for a little bit. We're bringing it back. Fan favorite, the Maniacs, will be back again. And we have Greek food. We have Wanna Sip, which is a wine vendor. So lots of good stuff happening. And we're going to have a little competition, I understand, again.
That's it. We're going to have our cornhole competition. We're having our Parks and Recreation Department that's going to help with that, and we're kind of finalizing the details, but it looks like there'll be an entrance fee where people can enter teams, and I know that myself and Congressman Lawler in the spring challenged you and Dom Riola, and we ended up losing to Dom, but That's not going to happen on September 29th.
We'll see. We're up for the challenge. We spoke about it, and we're happy to accept again.
Yeah, it's a great event, and you have a lot of vendors. I mean, and what's nice is it's a smaller street, so it's not as overwhelming as, let's say, the Nanuet or the New City Street Fair. And you'll get thousands of people that come through.
Yeah, we get several thousand. It is on the smaller side of the events. We have between 50 and 70 vendors, but it's also a little more homey. Like we have in the park's a great place, by the way. We have people, they'll sit, they'll listen to the music. We set a tent up with chairs so people could eat and listen to the music. In addition to the band, we'll have a DJ. But I got to tell you before I forget, the town has been an absolute wonderful partner in this. We couldn't have asked for someone else to work with. I mean, between the park, the people in the park that help us out, from everything, soup to nuts. I'll deal with your Parks Department and Maintenance Facility several days in advance with the setup. Of course, helping sponsor us. The police protection is second to none. You feel very safe there. I don't know if I think today that means something to people. When you go to a large outdoor event like that, you know that there are people there that are helping you, and they mingle around the crowds. Another thing that's I kind of like is that during election season, because we're usually 6-8 weeks out from election, is that a lot of the elected officials will get booths there, and it's a very informal, impromptu way to talk to your elected officials or people running for office to get their ideas. It's not somebody knocking on your door or something, which is also an important part, but it's a very formal, informal interaction, and I've seen it. It just really seems to work well. So we hope you're going to be there.
Oh no, absolutely, absolutely, we'll be there. And again, the town will continue to sponsor. It's really a great venue, as you said, and we do have the police auxiliary, the Clarkstown Police. We have our DFM, staff, as well as our Parks and Recreation staff. And it is a town facility as well that you guys have access to. But it's a great hometown event, and literally it helps put Congress on the map, if you will.
Yep.
I mean, New City's got 2 street fairs, Nanuet's got 1, but Congress has got these 2 festivals, and they're really lovely events, and it's not overwhelming. The Nanuet Street Fair, they'll get upwards of 15,000 people that will come, and it can be a little daunting, and just in terms of the crowds. They do a great job, and the town partners with them as well. New City, likewise, they'll be a little smaller, but this is more on the order of 3,000 to 5,000 people, from what the police tell us will come on through in a 6-hour period. We pray for good weather, and what's great now, we're going to have the Cornhole edition, which will be right in the park, and we'll have some details on that to follow as well.
Good. Look forward to it.
So how do people get in contact with you or the Rotary Club?
Well, if you want to be a vendor, woodwill.com is the promoter that we partner with to do the vendor side of it. Or they can go on clarkstownrotary.org and send us a message, or we're all over Facebook. We've been promoting this for a couple of weeks now. We hire someone to actually do the promotion end of it. So woodwill.com for booths. Go on our webpage, our Facebook page, and we hope to really see you.
Yeah, it's going to be a great event, and I'm looking forward to the cornhole. Nick, thanks so much for being a great guest, but thanks for your volunteerism with Rotary. In addition to working for the county as in fire and emergency services, I mean, this is a labor of love volunteer effort that you do with Rotary, and you do a great job with it.
Thank you very much.
Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Email from school about the incident today.
Scary.
Teachers like me, parents, we don't always know as much as you guys do about what's going on with other kids.
Half the time, it's rumors.
Yeah, but if you're ever concerned about a friend who's having trouble with alcohol, prescription drugs, anything, you need to tell an adult, someone you know and trust. That can be hard, but speaking up about a problem is what helping a friend is all about.
Welcome back. My next guest is John Valentino, Clarkstown's newest councilman. Welcome, John.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the time.
So, John, happy to have you here. Unfortunately, with the terrible tragedy that took place with the death of the late Councilman Mark Woods unexpectedly on May 17th, created an opening, and the town board has appointed you to fill in Mark's seat, and you're also running for election in your own right in November. But you bring a lot of platform skills and experience to the position of councilman. So we're going to talk a little bit about that, your background, and what brings you to local government, and then some of the things that you're looking to work on. So just tell us briefly about your background. Where were you born and raised?
Okay, I was born in Brooklyn. I was raised in Staten Island. Back in 2000, my wife and I decided that we wanted to move off of Staten Island because there was an issue with overdevelopment of the borough, and the quality of life started to decline. We had one child at the time, so we decided to look up in Rockland, never looked back. Moved up here in 2000, like I had said, been here for 25 years and have never looked back.
And you've been somewhat involved within the community. I know that you bring a unique background, which you know, frankly, you have two of the same entities or career paths that Councilman Woods also had as well. Councilman Woods, of course, was a member of the NYPD. So were you, retired?
Yes.
And Councilman Woods was also a funeral director, and you're also as well. So let's talk a little bit about your background in law enforcement, because that brings a unique perspective. We don't have that many law enforcement officials retired in local government, and frankly, I think you bring a very needed perspective, as Mark did. So let's talk a little bit about your career. What led you to want to be a police officer? How long were you a police officer?
Okay, so I wanted to be a police officer since I could remember. My mother has a picture that I drew when I was probably about 5 years old that she had kept, that she brings out to me often. And it was myself in a uniform, in a police car, next to another car. And that's when I knew I wanted to be a police officer. That's what I wanted to do since I was old enough to know about it. I did 23 years in the police department.
But before you did that, so you went to local schools in Staten?
I did. I went to Catholic grammar school. I went to Catholic high school, private high school on Staten Island. I went to Monsignor Farrell High School. Upon graduating from Monsignor Farrell, I went to Brooklyn College.
What did you study in Brooklyn?
I studied psychology.
Okay.
I had gotten my EMT certification there while I was in school.
And then you took the police test?
I took the police test prior to graduating college, and I was going to leave college after 2 years to become a police officer. And I had a conversation with my dad one day about it. My dad had worked for the telephone company for many, many years, and he was going to college at night while he worked. So we had a discussion that I was going to leave school and become a police officer at the time, and he said to me, if you leave school now, chances of you finishing are going to be slim. Just like me, I work all the time, and then I come to school. We never got to see him. So he said, finish school, and then become a police officer. The police department will be there after. That's what I did. I joined the cadet program, where I did 2 years with a precinct as a civilian, and I continued my college. And once I graduated college, about 4 weeks later, I went into the academy.
Right. When did you get out of the academy?
I got out of the academy in 1992.
Wow. So really, in the height of the, you're literally coming in from the end of the Dinkins era into
Right.
the Giuliani era, with the broken windows policing, where New York really was getting cleaned up, right?
Right, and that broken windows policy, I know it was controversial to a lot of people. However, it worked. The little things that you went after, a lot of times tended to bring in the bigger fish, if you will. You would stop somebody for urinating in public, which is in its own right annoying. But you would stop them, you would have a reason to stop them, and they would have a gun on them. So the little things that you would stop people for, that normally you in the Dinkins administration, where you would not enforce that or just drive by, you would stop those people and you would get big things. You would get somebody who was wanted on a murder homicide. So it worked. The broken windows policy worked.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And we're seeing that, and this is the aftermath. I mean, we're going to be doing a special program here in the town just to highlight the cost of what's taking place with the migrant crisis, and what we're seeing with that is the changes in law enforcement and bail reform in New York. It's really negatively affected quality of life across the board. And there are so many issues that just a number of years ago people would have law enforcement involvement and activity. It's literally we're getting they're getting desk appearance tickets where they may or may not show up. We're seeing scores and scores of cases that are reported on in the news of people that that if law enforcement had been able to do their job and not been handcuffed by the Assembly and the Senate in Albany and by Governor Cuomo at the time, that some of these quality of life crimes, maybe people their situations would have been addressed. Like one of the ones that drives me crazy is people with mental health crises. We have people that because of some of the way in bail reform has taken place, they can't get help, and so law enforcement might have been the gateway to get them into some other type of program. So if somebody is got a mental health issue or somebody's got a drug addiction, ultimately they may not want to get treatment, they may not want to get help, and now we've taken away one whole aspect where the criminal justice system could have been a way to divert people into treatment, where now it's just appearance tickets. And that's why we're seeing people in the city with 10, 20, 30, 50 encounters with law enforcement, where back in the day with the broken windows, the police would have intervened and there would have been some type of consequence. And then in those instances where people needed treatment or therapy, there would have been diversion programs and they would have been compelled to go to those, and that doesn't happen. And there's a reason why we have so many people that are overdosing, and there's a reason why we have more gun crime, and there's a reason why there's more violent crime, and it's a direct correlation to bail reform, which has just been abysmal, not just for the city, but frankly it's up here. We're dealing with the same thing here, and that's why your experience cleaning up the city, because really that's what you did, right? I mean, you became a street cop, and you were 21 years, as a police officer.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about some of your experiences. I mean, you rose all the way up in the ranks to be a lieutenant, right?
Yep.
So tell us a little bit about your time on the job.
Well, going along with the broken windows policy, what I think changed the city a lot was the fact that when Mayor Giuliani came in, one of his policies was we became a proactive police department. When I first came on, when I was a rookie and a few years into that, we were very reactionary. And what I mean by that is we would listen to the radio, we would respond to a call for help, but that was it. We were just very reactionary. We would never take the bull by the horns, for lack of a better term. When Mayor Giuliani came in, he decided the police department should be proactive. While in your downtime, do a little, watch a little, observe, stop somebody for the minor infractions. And that's what I think was a big player in that. And then I believe now, talking to friends of mine that are still on the job, it's become very reactionary again.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. There's another Clarkstown resident, Lou Anamone, Chief Anamone, who lives in Nanuet, and he was actually chief of the department under Giuliani.
Yes.
And helped implement, that entire system. It was a entirely different way of doing things. It worked at the time, and I think a version of that would work again today in the city. But unfortunately, with the way in which the city is being managed and the way in which policies have changed in Albany, there's a lot that we could learn from the past to try and improve the future. So let's talk about the future now. So you're involved in local government. You're
Yes.
just a couple of weeks now as a councilman. What are some of the things that you're going to be looking to work on here in the town, as a councilman?
Okay, so there are the larger issues, and when I say the larger issues that are shared by many people, which includes the overdevelopment. Like I said, I was I don't know if you want to say a subject, but I observed overdevelopment on Staten Island. And that's why I moved here. So I moved out because of that reason. So to me, overdevelopment is a big big issue because I don't want to see people here move out. Good people here, hardworking people here move out because they feel like it's getting too overdeveloped. Another thing that, again, being a police officer, I support police and I support first responders. So to me, crime and quality of life is a big issue to me.
Right.
So those are things that I want to make sure that we look at. In terms of...
And then I know you've already met with the police department, the chief, and you kind of hit the ground running as it relates to that, because that's really the experience and the perspective. It's one thing for people to talk about it, and I'm here now 9 years as town supervisor, but I don't have a background in law enforcement, and having somebody that does have a background in law enforcement, it really elevates you and gives you the opportunity to have a facility for some of these issues, particularly the quality of life issues, because up here we're not dealing with as much of the violent crime, although we are seeing an uptick in that regionally, just because of what's happening in New York City. Being 20 miles outside of Manhattan, or 25 miles outside of Manhattan, we're going to see people that are going to come up from the city. We have gangs that come up from Patterson that are stealing luxury cars from neighborhoods and breaking into people's houses. It's like crimes of opportunity. But as a law enforcement professional, as a retired lieutenant, in your background, in the city, you have a facility that others are not going to have. So you're able to really be able to connect with our law enforcement in a way that others may not be able to. So it's a great quality Mark had, and certainly a great quality you have as well.
Sure. And I do want to add that our police department is professional, intelligent, they're hardworking. The men and women of the Clarkstown Police Department, they do a very, very good job.
Right. You also have, and there's a couple other things I know that are important to you, that were important to Mark as well, that you're working on. Sidewalks.
Right, sidewalks. I think that's an important issue. Safety concerns with that, and also Mark had started with handicap accessible playgrounds, and I think that's important. I don't think people realize the extent of that, but that's important.
Yeah, and I know that you picked up the mantle there, and we're going to have a beautiful new, fully accessible playground with restroom facilities at Zucker Park that we're working on, and I want to thank you for your efforts on continuing that vision as well. You have a whole nother facet to your career, though, which is interesting. You're a funeral director, right?
Yes.
So you work at Higgins.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about that and what that entails.
So, being a police officer, I worked with the community, and I enjoyed working with the community. I enjoy people. I like people. So becoming a funeral director was, in essence, sort of like being a police officer in terms of being with the community, supporting them in their time of need. So that's why I became a funeral director.
Yeah, it's interesting listening to you talk about that. I know that at our DARE graduations, our former police chief, Ray McCullough, would get up, and I can remember almost word for word how Ray would describe his job as a police officer. And he would say, being a police officer is one of the greatest jobs in the world. And he said, some days are the best, you're dealing with some of the best stuff. But he said, some days you're dealing with and you're working with people when it's the worst day of their life. And how you're able to connect with people and help them and bring dignity to those situations really means a lot, and is so literally it's kind of the same thing as a funeral director.
I was going to say so some of those responsibilities that you mentioned have carried over into the funeral world for me. So that's why in my opinion, I am good at what I do because I do listen. People want to be listened to, and people want to be supported. So that's what I do. I listen and try to find a solution that works best for them.
Right. Well, John, I want to thank you for being a great guest. I want to congratulate you on your role now as town councilman. We didn't really get into your family as well, so at the risk of of that. I want to make sure that you just mentioned, you know, wife and 3 kids, right?
Yes, because they would be mad if I didn't mention them. So my wife Margaret, we've been married for 27 years. I have 3 children. My oldest John, my middle Dominic, and my daughter Mia, all of which are actually in the medical field in some fashion or another. So they are continuing that legacy of service to individuals in their time of need.
That's great. And so I want to thank you for being a great guest. Congratulate you on being, you know, our newest councilman here in Clarkstown. And if folks need to get in contact with you, how can they do that? So they can get you through the town email?
Right,
I guess,
through the town email, through the
Mm-hmm.
j.valentino@clarkstown.org, or they could also call you up in the town council office,
Right.
correct? 845-639-2056,
Yes.
right? Great. So John, thank you so much, and we wish you well as you proceed, you know, through the rest of the year as a councilman here in Clarkstown.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thanks. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
In every family, small conversations can make a big impact. I grew up on tour with my parents. Kind of different, but we bonded over music and we talked. Honest conversations, like when my dad shared his experiences as an alcoholic. Your honesty gave me a sense of integrity that I wanted in my own life.
And I wanted you to know, from someone who's been in recovery more than 30 years now, that hard work is what creates success, not alcohol or other drugs, in whatever you do.
Talk, they hear you.
Welcome back. My final guest in our veteran segment is Guy Gebbia. Welcome, Guy.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Nice to be here. I appreciate it.
So, Guy, really happy to have you. You know, I've known you for many years. You're a fixture over at Higgins.
Yes.
You're also a fixture in our American Legion and in our Upper Nyack VFW post, former commander there.
Right.
And we love having veterans on. It's super, super important, you know, in my opinion. And that's why on every one of these shows that we've done, we try and have a veteran who talks about their service, can remember fallen comrades, as well as the importance of service and what it means to serve. And very few people, you know, less than 1% of the population actually serves. And you know, so literally we need to take time to recognize our vets. So you're representing all vets today. So I want to thank you for that.
I'm proud to do it. Hopefully I can do a good job for you.
So let's talk a little bit about you and your background. Where were you born and, you know, where were you raised?
I was born in the Bronx. We moved up to Rockland County in 1957.
Right. What part of the Bronx were you from?
Out by the Grand Concourse,
Okay.
2850 Creston Avenue.
Okay.
1 block off the Grand Concourse. But we moved up here in 57, and at that time, it was the country. You know, we came up here, but it was a beautiful place. For here, I went to Nyack High School, graduated from Nyack High School, and matter of fact, my whole family did. I went to Rockland Community College, then St. Thomas Aquinas. I graduated from St. Thomas Aquinas College with a degree in business and marketing, and I graduated magna cum laude, which was great.
Congratulations.
But
Well
at
done.
that time, that was after the military.
So how'd you get into the military?
Back in the day, it wasn't very popular to go into the military at that time, but everyone was getting drafted, and all my friends were getting drafted, and I was at RCC. When the semester was over, I decided to join the Navy. My father was in the Air Force, in the Army Air Corps during World War II. My uncle was in the Navy, in the Armed Guard, the Navy Armed Guard, and my brother was in the Air Force. So I just thought it was the right thing to do. I've always been devoted and a true American. We had a lot of patriotism in our home and Americanism, and it was the right thing to do.
So what year did you join the Navy?
December of 1965.
So this is Vietnam as it's ramping
Vietnam
up
was
under the
ramping
Johnson
up, yeah,
administration.
yeah, right. It was ramping up, and I went up to Great Lakes, and I was sent to electronic technician school.
Okay.
So I did, when you get to boot camp, you take a battery of tests, and I qualified for electronic technician school, and that time I was sent out to the ship, USS Hornet, CVS 12, and I was an electronic technician specializing in communications and navigational equipment.
So for the benefit of our viewers, what type of ship was the Hornet?
It's a carrier. It was a carrier, and it did duty in Vietnam two times while I was on it. It did a third time before I was on it.
Was that the Hornet that was also in World War II?
Yes, yes. It was the World War II Hornet. So it's kind of a famous ship, and right now, so many ships are salvaged and scuttled, but the Hornet is like the Intrepid is in New York. The Hornet's in Oakland Bay in San Francisco area.
Have you been out to it since you?
Yes. Every now and then we have reunions, and I go, and then I don't sleep for 3 days.
Yeah. So you served in wartime.
Yeah.
You did 2 tours in Vietnam.
2 tours, yeah.
So tell us a little bit about your experience.
So the ship was, mainly tracing and tracking Russian submarines and so forth. It was an anti-submarine warfare ship. We had A-4 jets and a lot of helicopters and Willie Fudds, we call them, the aircraft. And we did a lot of flight ops, but I worked on communication equipment and navigation equipment. One of them was the URD-4, which was a navigation device that would locate down pilots.
Okay.
And when the pilot went down, they would have a beeper on, and this thing would tell you on a scope where it was, what direction on the compass, and how far. So I was really good on that because I was trained on it, and on the carrier we had lots of equipment. So sometimes the smaller ships in the Mekong Delta only had 1 electronics technician. We had 55 on board.
Wow.
So we became very good on certain things, and that was my specialty. So when they had a URD-4, which is the navigational finder, to find down pilots, they would send to the carrier for technical assistance because they couldn't fix it, or they didn't have the parts or whatever. So they temporarily send me over there. They say, Gebbia, tomorrow morning, be up on the flight deck. Right. So I'd be sent over there, and back then they didn't have those smaller ships, destroyer escorts, PBRs. They didn't have landing pads, so you're hanging from a cable.
How many times?
So
how many times would you say that happened to you, where you had to be like lowered down to a ship?
Many. I'd say once or twice a month.
Okay.
Besides my regular duties on board the carrier, but that was the most memorable thing, because it was, it was close to the action.
Right. So obviously you served during wartime, and as it was ramping up, 65, around the Gulf of Tonkin resolution.
Right before I was through Tet Offensive too, but because I was there from 66 to 67, and then 68 to 69, the 2 tours.
Wow. So obviously, and to the extent that you're comfortable, you obviously knew people that were killed.
Yes,
correct?
yes. A lot of pilots, a lot of helicopter accidents. Some things when you're on a carrier, a lot of the jets, some of the crew, the flight crew would be blown overboard or something. You have to, hopefully you find them. They have side boys. Right. On the ship, always. So, but that was not very often. But I do know people that never returned. So,
I have to imagine you probably went down to D.C. to the wall at some point.
Many times, yeah. I belonged to a motorcycle club, the Hudson Valley Hogs, and we would go down to Rolling Thunder every year.
Yeah, Willie Kennelly goes down as well.
Yeah, sure. He's the Nom Knights, so yeah. Right. He's in the Nom Knights. But yeah, I've been down to the wall many times.
Is there a particular person that you?
Pete Conlon was a friend of mine.
Tell us about Pete, if to the extent that you can.
Pete was in the Army, and they had a attack, and he was in his hooch, and some missiles, rockets, and from my understanding, the guy right next to him just was fine, and he got hit with shrapnel and died.
I'm sorry.
And then another one was Bobby Hagan. I don't know much about him, exactly what happened, but he had moved away to Illinois before he went in. But when you go to the wall to look him up, you think in Rockland County, but he was really from Illinois at that time. So,
Right.
but yeah, so those are the two that I know of from Rockland County that I know of. And when we do the watch fires, you always hear their names, and
Those are the two.
those are,
For you.
Yeah, it's good. Makes me feel good.
Yeah. Well, listen, 2 tours of duty in Vietnam. I mean, that's a huge sacrifice that most people can't even conceive of. And I want to thank you for that. What rank did you get up to in the Navy?
ETN 2, which is E5. You can't go to E6 unless you sign up again.
Right.
At that time, there was no way.
2 is enough. two tours is enough.
2 tours. Plus, back then, it wasn't like it is now.
Yeah.
You didn't get much respect.
Yeah. No, it's very different back then. So, what was it like when you came home? What'd you do?
I got out 3 months early to go to college. I went back to RCC, graduated, and then went to STAC and graduated. But I worked for IBM, so I have to give a big hand to the Navy because they taught me electronics. And I got a job at IBM as a field engineer. And it was a great career. It wasn't a job, it was a career. It was like family. But it really helped the Navy. The Navy taught me discipline, and it taught me electronics. So when I got out, then my degree was in marketing and business, as I said. So I went into the marketing side with IBM after a while.
Wow.
So it was a great career, and it was something that I thanked the Navy. While I was going through it, I didn't like it, but now that I'm out of it,
Right.
I'm glad I was there. And speaking of family, I just wanted to make a point that how important my family was to me when I came home, because when people come home from service, you have that difficult time transitioning from military life to civilian life. And my family has really been helpful, supportive, and loving to me. That's allowed me to do this. When I got home, I didn't even feel as though I was like I was a stranger in my own house. And I ran into my old high school girlfriend, my wife, Karen. I've been married 52 years. And my life started to come together. It started to be somewhat normal again. And it really is helpful. And she's blessed me with 2 beautiful children, my son, Guy Nicholas. He has wife, Lauren, and his 2 beautiful children, my grandchildren, Blake and Nicholas Cash. And then my daughter, Vanessa, who married George Cambrone, and she, blessed us. They blessed us with a beautiful family. And their daughter, Lila Grace, my granddaughter, is a lovely woman, a lovely little girl, young lady. She's going into her sophomore year. So they were very instrumental, and my family and friends were very, very important to me. And they've helped me make that transition and helped me realize that it's important to help other people and do things for them, because I felt sorry and wanted to help those who were not able to help themselves. I was fortunate and grateful that I was able to make that transition and able to help people. There are many, many veterans out there with all the homelessness and all the suicides who are not able to make that transition. So I've dedicated myself, and many of the organizations have dedicated themselves to helping those needy, worthy, and deserving veterans.
So you've done a whole bunch of things, since then. You've been Ed Higgins for a lot of years.
Yes, I work part-time at Higgins Funeral Home.
And tell us what you do there. I mean, so anybody that goes, they'll typically see you at the office, or trying to assist families.
I do everything that they want me to do. Everything I'm qualified to do, and I do everything except in the prep room. I'm not a licensed funeral director, so I don't do any of the embalming, any of that stuff. But I do it. I drive the hearse. I drive the limo. I work the door. I help people out. I go to doctors' offices and get death certificates. Sometimes Joe DeMonte, the general manager, will have me actually do a funeral, because I can do funerals. In New York State, you can do funerals if it's cremains. If it's a regular funeral or regular body, then you need a licensed funeral director. So they've sent me out on funerals to do the entire process. So that makes me feel proud that they have enough faith in me to do that. And you know what? You're helping people. It's just a beautiful thing. It really
literally, and I could tell you this. I go to a lot of wakes. I'm at Source and Higgins all the time.
Yeah.
You know, just the supervisor, there's, you know, a lot of people pass away, and you try and pay your respects. And you always have a nice smile, you know, a quick, you know, encouraging word, and that's important for families that are going through the loss of somebody. And, you know, that's a real credit, and I have to imagine that probably your service in the Navy probably helped you develop that whole thing as well.
Absolutely, that and my training at IBM in the marketing department and in the service department helped me. Plus, you know, when you get back from the service, you understand what people are going through.
Right. So we're almost out of time, but you got a bunch of things that you've been involved with. So tell us about the VFW. You're the former commander in Upper Nyack, and you've got you've got a big golf event coming up on Veterans Day, or around Veterans Day. But tell us about the VFW and the upcoming event as well.
Well, the VFW is like many of the other service organizations. It's there to, the motto of the VFW is to honor the dead by helping the living. And that's what we do. There are so many, the veterans.
VFW stands for
Veterans of Foreign Wars. The American Legion is for veterans also, but for VFW you have to be a combat veteran to be in a VFW. And so it's there to, like you said, honor the dead by helping the living, and that's what we do. We try to help families and work with the community to help the either veterans or veterans' families or active military do whatever we can to help them. You know, we took an oath, and to me, that oath doesn't stop once you get out of the service.
Right. So you have an upcoming event?
Yeah, we have an event. It's golf outing in Blue Hill, November 4th, day before Election Day. And it's great for veterans. It's free to veterans. Actually, it's only $25 to veterans because that just pays for the cart. But they get the 18 holes of golf. They get the cart. There's a lunch we give them. There's a hole-in-one sponsored by Mercedes-Benz. We've got, they've got closer to the pin, longest drive, raffle prizes, and all that. And all that money, so all the money that we get, it's 100%. In the VFW, all things we do, 100% goes to veterans. No 5% here or there. It's all goes to veterans. So they come there, and then so if they want to go, any veterans are listening, and they want to go and register, it's only $25 for them for all that, and they can go to www.vfwpost9215.org, and they can register there online.
Right, and so it's the third annual Veterans Golf Out and Commanders Cup.
Yep.
So vets golf in it, but also non-vets.
Yes, there are some non-vets. They have to pay. If you see it, the flight's $150, but vets is $25. So we expect to have 180 veterans this year.
Wow.
Every year we sell out, and it's a great event. It's done at Blue Hill. They do a wonderful job for us, and like I said, the money goes for all the things that we do, and we do many things. The VFW, we support Tunnels to Towers. We do Toys for Tots. We'll do Barry Fixler Foundation for catastrophically wounded veterans. We do what else we got? Homes for Heroes, Horses for Heroes. So we do a lot with that. One of the biggest things that we're involved with is we actually try to give automobiles to needy, worthy, and deserving veterans. If you think about it, we in Rockland County here, we take our reliable, dependable car for granted. But if you try to think about going to get baby equipment or device, things for the babies, food shopping, go to work, go to the doctor's office, whatever you want to do without a car, you're relying on taxis and you're relying on someone else driving you or buses. It's just impossible. So having a car, giving it to a veteran is it significantly improves their life, and it's not a handout. It's a hand up. They just need a little boost at times, and there's qualifications. You can't just have anyone. They have to have honorable discharge. They have to have a a good driving record. We get the DMV report for them. They have to have no cars in their family, certain income levels and so forth. And then, we decide which veteran, when we find a vehicle, we'll do that. So it really has helped people, and we've done 17. We're working on the 18th one already. So it's
So if somebody has a vehicle that they may want to consider donating, they can get a tax write-off. They could also reach out to you.
Yeah. Reach out to the VFW. We have to be. What I do is, I have an auto shop in West Nyack. The Alexander brothers there in West Nyack. They are very helpful. And what they do is they'll, all cars aren't qualified. We don't want to give a veteran a car that's going to be breaking down. We need to give them a decent car. So if it's good, I'll call up the mechanics and they'll tell me whether it's even worthwhile. If it isn't, if it is, then he'll pick it up and do the work, and any of the work necessary. A lot of times they'll find vendors and suppliers that give tires, brakes, and so forth. And the VFW pays for some of the work that has to be done, and it has to pass inspection. It's got to be a good, decent car that'll last a couple of 3 years for the veteran, where they can get on their feet.
Right.
So if anyone has a decent car, we can't take just clunkers, but we really appreciate anybody that would consider that.
And I've been at some of these ceremonies that you guys have done with where, not a lot of fanfare, but just to see some of the vets and how you're making their lives easier with turning the key, handing them the keys. I was at an event that a couple of years back, probably about 5 years ago now, it was up in Ramapo, where the VFW had done a car, and the person lived up in Ramapo, and it was just incredible to see. They were struggling after their service. They'd come home from Afghanistan, and they were just getting themselves on their feet, and getting a car meant the world of difference for them.
Yeah. It's very rewarding for us in the VFW. We work together, and we work with the community. We work with Boy Scouts, and everybody helps in some way or another. And this program has been very well received.
And so if anybody's got a vehicle, they can go to www.vfwpost9215.org.
Yep.
And they could reach out to you guys.
Reach out to us, yes.
Great. So, Guy, that's all the time we have, but I want to thank you for being a great guest. But more importantly, I want to thank you for your service. 2 tours of duty, active duty in Vietnam, but your continuing service to the community in Higgins, and more importantly with the veterans as well. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much for inviting me. I'm glad to be able to discuss this with you, and I hope that it encourages people to do the same out there.
Great.
All wounds of war, and not just physical.
Right. Thank you.
Thanks
so much.
God bless you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Email from school about the incident today.
Scary.
Teachers like me, parents, we don't always know as much as you guys do about what's going on with other kids.
Half the time, it's rumors.
Yeah, but if you're ever concerned about a friend who's having trouble with alcohol, prescription drugs, anything, you need to tell an adult, someone you know and trust. That can be hard, but speaking up about a problem is what helping a friend is all about.
Well, that's all the time we have for today. I want to thank my guest, Nick Longo, Councilman John Valentino, and U.S. Navy veteran Guy Gebbia. Until next time, I'm Supervisor George Hoehmtown. Thanks for joining us.